Hello, everyone. I'm Alex, and I lead the Christian charity Faith in Later Life. One of the aspects of later life ministry, which we see as increasingly important in light of our aging population, is Christian ministry in care homes. And so I'm delighted to welcome you to this conversation with Rebecca today. Welcome, Rebecca. Nice to
Hi,
see you
Alex.
here.
Thank you for
Um,
having me.
You're very welcome. Rebecca is the coordinator of a branch of the national Christian charity Embracing Age, based on the Isle of Wight off the south coast of England. Rebecca has developed the project over the last 4.5 years, facilitating a team of volunteers to support and care home residents across the island who are without family or suffering isolation. Support includes befriending and various other creative projects, including Cards of Kindness, Care Home Crafters, the Flower Bouquet Blessing, and Animal Care Home Connections. Rebecca was born on the island and lives there with her husband and four furry pet friends. Rebecca and her husband attend True Church, and they both have a love of the outdoors, enjoying the many opportunities the island has to offer. So I'm really looking forward to asking you a few questions about the ministry, Rebecca. But before that, I'm just really curious. I'm a big animal lover myself, and I'm intrigued by the animal care home connections. What's that about, and why hasn't every care home got one?
Well, what's happened, Alex, that it over the past 4.5 years with the different projects that we've been doing, I've become very aware of the love of animals, obviously within care homes, and most care homes can't have pets for obvious reasons within the care home setting. And some of the other projects that we're involved with, which I'm sure we'll talk about, we can make a card with an animal on, we can make a toy. But I began to think, well, what about the real thing?
Mm.
Um, so a couple of things have happened really in the last year. And one of them is that I've been working in partnership with a riding school on the Isle of Wight, and we've been running dementia clinics once a week where people with dementia would come with their carers to the riding stables and then spend time with the horses, grooming them, touching them, and just generally spending time with them. And then we'd have a cup of tea and a piece of cake, of course. But as you may be aware, that animals are very therapeutic. So it really had an impact on the residents that came to spend time with the horses. I've got a couple of quotes here that I
Mm.
could actually
Yeah,
um,
do.
read to you. And one says, one resident said, it brought back memories as I lived on a farm, but the horses we had were cart horses and also gave pleasure. And another lady, they waited for you to touch them, gave you kisses, and it took me back to memories of my Black Beauty, which was
Mm.
her own horse. So
Yeah.
of course, it can calm residents down by touching, um, and also reminiscing as well of some of the benefits.
Mm. Mm.
The other thing that I've got involved with is Pets as Therapy, which
Mm.
is another charity, a national charity that's been going for about 40 years, I believe. And they go into care home settings, hospitals, schools, and people can register their own pets, a cat or a dog. It has to be assessed. And then, as I say, they can go into these different establishments. And I would really like to see this grow across the Isle of Wight. So I'm really acting as a bit of an ambassador for them and promoting pets as therapy. So the vision would be to have, a cat or a dog in every care home across the island. And I've actually just registered my own cat, who's called
Mm.
Cadbury, and
Okay.
he's a Siamese ragdoll cross.
Do you
We've just
think
done.
he'll pass? Has he got the right
He's
kind of
passed.
attitude?
He has. He's passed. He's
Oh,
always been very confident,
oh,
and loves people. And we did
yeah.
our first visit um, a couple of weeks ago, which went really well.
Oh,
So
good.
yes, the animal care home connections is
Yeah,
different things been happening
yeah,
where we're trying to connect animals with
yeah.
care homes.
It's such a important part of life, isn't it? Especially for people who've maybe had to leave pets behind when they transitioned into a care home, or as you say, who remember having them. And what a great way to be reminded of God's creation. There's nothing quite like, the little alien species that are our pets, to remind us of what God can do, and yeah, how wonderful His creation is. So yeah, it's really great. I love hearing stuff like that. I don't think my
Absolutely.
little dog Mary would pass. She's super excitable and would definitely be thrown out of pet therapy school straight away. Anyway, let's get back to the matter in hand, which is to for us to learn more about what you've learned about care home ministry, and of course something about embracing age too. So, Rebecca, how did you come to be involved in later life and care home ministry work? And what is it that you love about your role?
Well, it's interesting, Alex, because actually the majority of my working life I've been involved with youth.
Hmm.
And about 5 years ago, um, I felt that season was coming to an end, and I was to lay. I was actually involved with setting up school pastors on the Isle of Wight, but I was to lay that down. And then it was around about the time actually of the pandemic, and my husband and I were looking at opportunities where we could help in our local community. And I came across the need for drivers in something called White Mask Ask, which actually is a project of Embracing Age. Embracing Age on the Isle of Wight had literally just began to form in 2019. And of course, the pandemic happened. So, as an organisation, they got some funding in order to be able to buy PPE for care homes across the Isle of Wight. And as you're probably aware, at the time, care homes were very much down the list of being given PPE. So they were able to raise £20,000 in order to distribute this PPE across the Isle of Wight, and they were looking for drivers, and that's how I first became involved with Embracing Age.
Hmm.
And then later that year, they were looking for a coordinator to help start developing the project across the Isle of Wight. And when I heard about it, literally my heart jumped inside of my chest, and I knew that God was speaking to me, and that this is something that that He wanted me to do. So I went for the interview, and that's how I became involved with the ministry.
Great. What a good way of God to lead you. And of course, I imagine that the experience you have with youth work, it won't be wasted. There'll be, groups of people in many ways are groups of people, aren't they? And yeah, I expect that's a whole other interview we could do about what are the similarities and differences between youth and seniors ministry. Um, but tell me, what have you discovered about why is Christian ministry in care homes important?
Well, I think one of the misconceptions, Alex, is that once a person goes into a care home setting, that they're okay, and we don't really need to do anything else. That they've got 24/7 care around the clock, and they're with lots of people, so they must be quite okay.
Mm.
Now, our founder, Tina English, did some research, and she actually found that residents in care homes are twice as more likely to be lonely than living in the community,
Mm,
which, when I first heard that statistic, I was quite shocked myself. And
mm,
I think, well, kind of why is that? What are some of the factors?
mm,
Um, and when you think that um, when you move into a care home setting, you can't necessarily choose where you're going to live. You might not live in the same, town or village that you've been used to. That it's where that there is a placement available.
mm,
Also, you can't choose the people that you live with.
mm,
So not necessarily going to have lots in common with those people. Also, as obviously as we age, there can be various communication difficulties. Obviously, if
mm,
we're see so well or we can't hear so well, or we may be on the dementia pathway.
mm,
And actually, within the care home setting, statistically, it's 70 to 80% of people living in a care home that will have dementia
mm,
or will have memory loss of some form. So, dementia itself can be isolating and lonely. And then, of course, for the 20% that uh, are not on the dementia pathway, trying to build relationships can be quite challenging.
mm,
Also, within a care home setting, the staff do an absolutely amazing job,
mm,
but most of their time is spent on the physical and nursing care needs of a resident, and it's unrealistic to think that they can actually meet every resident's emotional, social and spiritual needs.
mm.
So this is really where um, the ministry of going into care homes is so important in order to be able to help come alongside the care home and the residents to prevent perhaps some isolation and
Mm.
loneliness that might be occurring.
Yeah, yeah, that's such a good point that, of course, the care home can't necessarily supply every need, and actually the need is greater often when once you are living in a care home. What difference does it make to the lives of older people when Christian ministry happens within a care home? And what kind of things have you seen make the most positive impact?
Well, the difference that it makes, Alex, to the residents is that they feel valued, that
Mm,
they feel loved, that they feel part of the community, and hopefully that they also have hope as well.
mm,
And the different ministries that we're involved here on the Isle of Wight, our central ministry is befriending.
mm,
So our volunteers go into a care home setting probably once a week, sometimes once a fortnight, and they will befriend a particular resident that the care home has highlighted as someone that doesn't have family and friends
mm,
or is particularly isolated for some reason. So those the volunteer will go in and spend one-to-one time with that resident, and they might be that only visitor that they have that week, but it's somebody for them that's taking an interest in them, in their emotional and spiritual welfare.
mm.
Also, we do have care homes where we have small little wellbeing groups,
Mm,
which I can tell you about. We have one care home where and they gave the name, it's the Old Boys Club.
okay.
And there's three male residents that meet each week with one of our volunteers and spend time together. And they it's very much led by the residents and what they would like to do, what they would like to talk about. It might be current affairs, it might be doing a craft activity, it might actually be going out. In this instance, they have been out to the local pub for a lunch and a drink. Um, and I just one of the residents, uh, he said, it's fantastic as we have our own gentlemen's group. It makes me feel part of the community. Going to the pub took us out of ourselves with real people,
Mm.
which is interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so so yes, that also benefits the residents during the week because they've come together and spending time with each other, getting to know each other,
Mm.
and then speaking to each other during the week, which might not necessarily have happened
Yeah,
um, otherwise.
yeah.
But now, kind of broken the ice, and they've got each other to talk to.
And what a lovely idea, because quite often, and it's the same in the community at large, it's actually men forming relationships with each other is actually more of a challenge than women. Tend to be very good at gathering together and finding things to talk about and finding things in common, but not so much for men. So to take notice of that, even in later life, even once living in a care home is really special. Yeah, what a great idea.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Alex. It is much harder with men. So yeah, it's really wonderful.
Hmm. What kind of things then, some of these befriending situations, just want to go back to that. How
Mm.
does a person, well, what are some of the conversation starters in those early days when a person has a new befriender come and see them? How do they begin to form good relationships that really support the care home resident?
I mean, in some of the care homes, Alex, they do have information that can be like a little biography, really, that can be
Hmm.
shared
Hmm.
about the residents. But that isn't always particularly those that don't have family or maybe on the dementia pathway. There are occasions where they don't necessarily have that
Yeah.
information. So it really is about spending time, having patience. And what we say to our volunteers is that it's really good to take a little toolkit with you, for
Hmm.
instance, and that might be um, a paper, it might be a poetry book, it might be a colouring book, um, it might be a puzzle, a game. Things are just, little icebreakers,
Yeah.
um, something that somebody might enjoy doing, and hopefully the care home staff might be able to give you some pointers in that direction as to what
Yeah.
they do enjoy, so that
Hmm.
you can focus on that. Um, we do have some resources which can be downloaded from the website.
Great.
Um, and for instance, this one, which is Christian devotions to share with a loved one when you're living with
Hmm.
dementia.
Hmm.
Uh, making moments, again, enjoying quality time with loved
Yeah.
ones with dementia.
That's
Um,
really good. We'll put a link to some of that stuff in the blurb to do with the video, just in case anybody's listening and didn't catch the names. But yeah, what a good idea. Great. Anything else that you've seen being done well through care homes at the moment to support people? You mentioned about the befriending, and we've got the groups, the Old Boys Club, for example. What else have you noticed?
So one of the other projects that we set up, Alex, is Cards of Kindness.
Mm.
And this is a project, again, which we started in the pandemic when we couldn't actually um, go into the care homes for obvious
Mm.
reasons. And it became so impactful that we've continued that project. And so we have people across the island, which could be individuals or groups, making beautiful homemade cards. And I have to say, they are absolutely beautiful.
Mm.
And some of those have been school children as well, which is really
Oh.
And then we have allocated volunteers that are connected to particular care homes, and then they will be responsible for writing the cards
Mm.
month and sending to the care home residents. And what we do, we have a certain amount of information about the residents, and it may be that, for instance, they love nature,
Mm.
or it may be that they are on the dementia pathway. So having a more tactile card
Mm.
would really beneficial for them.
Mm.
And then those residents, again, that fall into that criteria, that don't necessarily have any family or friends, or are particularly isolated, will receive a card from us on a monthly basis.
Mm.
Now, someone might say, well, it's just a card.
Mm.
Um, what that do? Um, and I remember somebody saying that sort of, right at the
Mm.
beginning. And one of the care home managers said, well, actually, you know, care home residents get excited about receiving post from the
Mm.
government, let alone
Yes.
a beautiful handmade card
Mm.
by somebody in the community. And we always ask the person to write their first name,
Mm.
and the town that they're from, because that gives that connection.
Mm.
Um, again, and just a little story.
Mm.
Um, so we get information about that particular person. This particular man liked aeroplanes,
Mhm.
and we've taken some photographs at an air museum, and it happened to be a flying fortress, which I don't know, it's quite an old aeroplane, and they used to paint ladies on the side of the planes. Anyway, we sent this card off to this gentleman, and I had a phone call from the activities coordinator, and she said, "You just would not believe, this gentleman was a high-ranking officer in the Air
Mm.
Force. He had dementia, but he was carrying this card around,
Mm.
and he was sitting in the reception area, and he was showing people, and he was talking to people about the time when he was in the Air Force. So for him, not just receiving that card from someone in the community, but he was reminiscing
Yeah.
some positive memories for him. So that's just
Mm.
one example.
Yeah,
Um,
that's so powerful, isn't it?
yeah,
And in a way, it's so charming, but it's so simple. Anyone could send cards to their local care home residents. You could do it as a church, you could do it as a home group, you could do it as a family, and maybe establish a pattern. What a lovely thing to do for people. Whether you can facilitate it once a month or whether you can just do it at Christmas and Easter. Like, what a great
yeah,
thing what a great thing to steal from you and to adapt into people's
absolutely.
ministry. I mean, it is charming. And yeah, like you say, I mean, amidst the post from the government, obviously a beautiful card is lovely, but anyway, receiving post, even you or I, Rebecca, like, when do we get any decent post that's really
Exactly.
lovely to receive? So, it's not just for older people. So yeah, what an absolutely lovely idea. Is there anything
um,
else you want to
one
add about that kind of thing before I go on to the next
Yes.
question? Yeah,
So
go ahead.
we've also got we run the flower bouquet blessing here on the Isle of Wight, which again is something that a local church or a group of people could do. It was something that actually I started here on the Isle of Wight prior to being the coordinator of Embracing Age, and I got friends together. Um, and we would use flowers from our garden, or I got in touch with the local supermarket, which happens to be Tesco's here, and they were giving me their discounted flowers for free.
Great.
And then what we would do is that we would put the flowers together either in bouquets or in arrangements, and then take them to the care homes, either as for them to display in the communal areas, or more of late for individuals that, again, fall within that criteria of not having any family and friends or being particularly isolated, and being able to give them a gift of the flowers. And I've got a lovely quote here from a care home manager, and he said, you may not know the difference a bouquet makes to those living with dementia. The presence of plants and flowers can have a healing effect, stimulating, reminiscing, providing peace and quiet to help ease stress and anxiety, agitation and pain. A flower can make a lot of difference, which I
Wow.
thought was,
Yeah. Yeah.
really
And
beautiful.
it's that tactile thing again as well, isn't it? Of touching the petals maybe and all of that as well. Yeah.
Um,
Really
so
lovely.
again, it's something that a local church could get involved with.
Mm,
In our churches, obviously, we've got some very talented florists, or even
yes.
even those that aren't talented in that way. What I found with a lot of these groups, it's lovely to bring people in
Mm,
who've never tried something like that.
mm,
So actually, some
yeah.
of these been very much a two-way
Yeah.
for giving and the receiving, not just of those within the care home, but also the people that are
Yeah.
actually involved in the activities themselves.
Yeah. It becomes a blessing to do this ministry as well, doesn't it? That's really lovely. And I guess, I mean, I'm not very good at arranging flowers, but if you take half a dozen daffodils, they kind of speak for themselves, to a
Exactly,
certain extent.
exactly,
So if you
Alex.
haven't got a group that you can teach you, how to put them together nicely, just pop a ribbon round and off they go. So
They go,
yeah, there's
indeed.
different ways of doing it. Oh, that's really lovely to hear.
And the other thing that we've been doing here on the island is our care home crafters.
Hmm.
Um, we have an amazing, I have to say, talented um, people on the Isle of Wight. They might be individuals, or they could be groups within a church setting, WIs, all sorts of different organisations, and they make things for us. A lot of knitted items. So, for instance, little capes,
Mhm.
bed capes, people that might be in bed blankets, knee blankets, fiddle muffs, which are for people with dementia, that people can put their hands in, and there'll be things inside that they can fiddle with, or on the outside.
Mm.
Um, Sometimes knitted toys as well, because obviously those with dementia, sometimes that can be very comforting to have
Mm.
something to hold
Mm.
and to cuddle. um, Little fingerless mitts with their hands get
Mm.
chilly, little scarves. So you could, in your church setting, that could be something else that
Mm.
could be an outlet for those that do knit.
Such a good
um,
idea because churches often have a group of knitters and not always an outlet for the knitted goods to go to. So
exactly,
connecting with
Alex.
your local care homes in that way, so, yeah, sounds brilliant.
People love to give in that way, as you
Mm.
say, that they to have an outlet and to know where they're going, and that they're
Yeah.
making a difference. And our the items that we have, they go out during the year when they're needed, but
Mm.
also at Christmas time.
Mm.
We have a Christmas gift box appeal,
Mm.
and all our residents that are either supported through befriending or our cards of kindness scheme will have a Christmas gift from
Mm.
us, which again, it's not just about the gift, it's about
Mm.
saying, you're loved, you're cared for in your community.
Yeah, yeah, what a lovely, lovely blessing. So you've obviously a lot of this, we can't just show up with a box full of knitted stuff or cards or flowers at our local care home and hope that they'll be heartily received. It sounds to me, you've mentioned care home managers and, them writing to you. There's clearly a connection that has to exist between the ministry and the care homes. How can a church that's not already connected with a care home begin to forge that relationship and begin to start doing something that would bless, especially those isolated older people living there?
Yes, Alex. Well, the church can have support through us. We
Hmm.
have a church coordinator, which is Paul Crothier,
Hmm.
and Paul is the link person
Hmm.
between helping local churches and their care homes if there isn't a project like Embracing Age set up. Currently, at the moment, just so that people are aware, we have Embracing Age projects on obviously on the Isle of Wight, in Hampshire, in Richmond, in London, and in West Sussex.
Hmm.
So there is scope, obviously, for lots
Yeah.
more um, projects to set
Mm,
up, or
great.
individual churches to connect with their local care homes. So
Mm,
yes, Paul is the person that churches can connect with. He can provide lots of a toolkit,
mhm,
resources, training, and also come and speak
mhm.
at church. Um,
And is that just in the areas that you've mentioned, or does he support church work sort of in Yorkshire and Scotland and places like that as well?
yes, so Paul is the national
Right. Good.
church coordinator. So
Hmm.
yes, he's not so involved with obviously our areas because we deal with those. He is
Yeah.
before, yes,
Mm.
across the UK and Ireland and Scotland.
Yeah.
Um, so the I think one of the things when people are starting to connect perhaps with their local care home
Mm.
is maybe the manager isn't always the best person
Okay.
because they are so busy.
Mhm.
Um, uh, we have found that connecting with the activities coordinator or maybe the well-being lead
Mhm.
is a very good way to
Mm.
start. Um, and obviously, it may be that they would then liaise with their manager, but it's finding that key person within
Yeah.
the care home that you can speak to that has the time as well. And it's also thinking about that. When is a good time?
Mm.
Because care homes are extremely busy places.
Yeah.
It's happening all of the time
Yeah.
with residents. So it's about saying, what's a good time that I may
Mm.
come and speak with you. And I think it's saying that we want to come alongside you. We
Mm.
want to support you in the arena that we can.
Mm.
Um, and then understanding that it's about coming alongside, because as I say, care home staff do an absolutely amazing job, and we want to be able to try and support them in the ministry that we do,
Yeah.
um, to make their lives and the lives of residents more enriched.
Mm. That's a really good idea to, as you say, approach the activities coordinators and well-being people to ask what time of day is good for this conversation and to give that assurance that this is about coming alongside and supporting the good work that they're already doing. So that's a very gracious approach. People would be hard pushed to turn you away, I suppose, if you come in like that. Have you got any other top tips for positive engagement with either the care home staff or with the care home residents? Anything else that you feel you'd like to share with us?
As I say, I think it is making it very clear that we're not coming in to inspect in any way.
Mm, mm,
That we're coming alongside you,
yeah.
um, and it's important that they know that. Uh,
Mm,
I think for us here on the Isle of Wight, um, we had a very great foundation because of the White Mask Ask,
mm,
and the fact that we were able to give in that way and say,
mm,
look, this is something that you need.
yeah.
We can provide this for you, and it started to build relationship. It started to build rapport. with those care homes, that they knew that we were there to come alongside
Yeah.
and support.
Yeah,
Um,
that's really good. Our arrival in a care home is not some sort of a criticism to fill a gap that we, feel you're not meeting. But it is about actually just, yeah, graciously filling that gap and drawing alongside the work that's happening. Yeah, good stuff. So you've said a little bit about
and for
what
the
churches.
residents themselves, we're person centered. Sorry, Alex.
We've
I was just
we've got a
saying.
lag. We've got a lag. Carry on. What you're saying is better than what I'm saying. Keep going, Rebecca.
I was just going to say, with the residents that we support, it's very much person centered.
Mm,
It's saying, what is it that would help you? What is it
mm,
that would make you feel more valued?
mm,
Um, you know, do they like to have a cup of tea and a chat? That's maybe
mm,
what they would they like to play a game? Would they like to be read to? They can't necessarily read like they used to be able to. So it's very much, what is it that you would like to do?
mm,
Um, and that's obviously the way of building relationship, building rapport. Um,
mm.
so yeah.
And it's a great way to ascribe dignity to that person, to continue to give them that autonomy of choice, and as you say, to show value in the way that God values us for every stage of life. Yeah, really, really good stuff. So
I just love
yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, Alex, just, I love this verse from Isaiah 6:4, which says, even to old age and grey hairs, I am he. I am he who will sustain you. I have made you and I will carry you. I will sustain you and I will rescue you. And I feel that, we are a part of that, you know
Mm,
to
mm,
sustain, helping to rescue, and obviously to love our neighbours, to love the lost and the lonely and the more vulnerable in our society as Christians.
yeah, amen to that. It's a great privilege we have to get involved in God's mission in this way to rescue alongside Him in the power of the Holy Spirit. Yeah, amazing work. Thank you, Rebecca. It's really, really interesting to hear some of your experience and just to broaden our vision of what it means to step over the threshold of a care home. You said a little bit about embracing age as we've talked, but is there anything else you'd like to share about, how can people connect with you? Have you got a website? How does it work if people want to look at some of these resources, that kind of thing? Tell us a little bit more.
Yes, absolutely. You can connect with us on our website, which is www.embracingage.org.uk. We also have Facebook as well, for all our different areas. So if you, for instance, look up Embracing Age Isle of Wight or Embracing Age Richmond, Embracing Age West Sussex, so we all have our individual Facebook pages, and there is also facilitates. We're also on Twitter and Instagram as well, which again, Embracing Age UK, you can connect with us. When you look at the website, you will see on the header at the top that there is a particular header there for the church, and there's different resources under there that people can download, a lot of them for free, and you can connect with any of the coordinators. You can connect with Paul, who is the church's coordinator across nationally. As well, you can find all the contact details on there. There is one other thing that I'd like to mention,
Yeah.
which is part of Embracing Age, which is Carers Connected.
Mm,
And if you are a person caring for your loved one, and would like to connect with others that are also informal carers, for support, for a chat and prayer together. We have a Carers Connected coordinator, Sarah, who runs weekly Zoom meetings as well, to make people aware that they connect in that way if they are an informal carer, because there is obviously people who are in informal carers can't necessarily get to church, and can be quite isolated. So providing support in a way.
Yeah, it must be great to have that opportunity to talk with other people who are in a similar situation to you, and to learn from each other and to support each other. So Carers Connected sounds great. Well, thank you for all that you've shared, Rebecca. It's been really good to hear from you. Churches and individuals who are interested in Christian care home ministry might also like to check out one of our blogs called 10 Top Tips to Help Your Church Support Worship in Care Homes, which I'll also put the details of that underneath this video. And of course, here at Faith in Later Life, we're always here to support your Christian ministry among older people. So if there's anything we can do to help you make the very best of the opportunity to help people have faith in later life, then please do get in touch. Rebecca, it's been an absolute joy to talk with you today, and I really value your time and your expertise. Thank you so much for joining us.